Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the presentation with Weave and Dandy, 3 ways to modernize your practice and generate more revenue. My name is Ryan White, and I'll be moderating today. Just a few quick things before we jump into our presentation. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to go pretty quickly. If you have questions about Weave or Dandy, you can see there's a button at the top for our live registration. People are watching right now. It says request a Weave demo. There'll likely be there'll be Dandy as well, and we'll get to where you can request more information from Dandy. If you are watching on demand, if you scroll down, you'll see links for both Weave and Dandy and where to get more information on both companies in the description below. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat for questions and try to answer them, but most of them we'll try to answer at the very end of our Q&A portion. But please feel free to put any questions or any comments in the chat, and we'd love to get to them. Speaking of which, we have a lot of people registered for this webinar and hopefully a lot of people attending, it looks like already. Throw in where you're watching from. We have our presenters are presenting from various locations, and we have a lot of fun places across the country being represented. So throw in the chat where you're watching from, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to introduce our two speakers. We have Nate Nelson and Ken Butler. Now, Nate Nelson is with Weave. He is the Senior Director of Weave for products, and he has been previously with Henry Schein, Solution Reach, and now with Weave. He is a wife with 5 kids, including a brand new 3-week-old child named Duncan, who is at 3 weeks. Am I correct on that one, Nate?
Sorry, I was on mute. It's like COVID-19 all over again. I was on mute. Yeah, he's 3 weeks, 3 weeks on Monday. So he was a big baby, 9 pounds, 4 ounces, all natural. My wife does these all natural. Crazy. Really good, though.
Well, congratulations. He's been on parental leave, but he agreed to get out of parental leave very briefly to present with us today. And also presenting, we have Ken Butler. Ken is over the head of R&D at Dandy and has over 1,000 hours working with digital dentistry and specifically with dental labs. We're very excited for his expertise and for him presenting today. Welcome, Ken.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So we're going to go ahead and start off with a quick poll. So you're going to see a poll up on your screen.
Ooh, hey.
Clear number one.
Yeah, we do. All right.
So it looks like about 18% we're talking about wanting to improve the staff, office, and doctor team experience. 25% they thought the most important was the patient experience at this moment, and improving productivity and revenue operations, a very popular one with 56.25%. The fortunate thing is we will be actually talking about all 3 of those today. And so to kick that off, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to Nate, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Great. Yeah. Go to slide 4. And by the way, we're going to be covering this in reverse order, apparently. A reverse order in terms of what you guys were really interested in seeing. Improving the office experience, improving the patient experience, and increasing productivity and revenue. And really, those first 2 result in that last one too, right? Increasing productivity and revenue. If we can increase the office or improve the office experience, improve the patient experience, we're going to increase revenue and productivity for everyone. So, which is good. So go on to the next slide there. We're going to start with improving the doctor team experience with digital technology. Now, what we're talking about really today is there's a myriad of ways that you can improve your office in terms of digital technology. However, we're starting with the staff experience or the office experience because, as each of you know, in the last 2 years through COVID-19, there's been a really big challenge, and especially with the Great Resignation now, that staffing shortages is a big problem for dental offices. If you look at this ADA study over here on the right, it shows that 40% of offices reported that the reason why they're having trouble seeing more patients is because they're having trouble filling vacant staff positions. Now, it could be that we just have we don't have enough good qualified staff members, and it could be that they're able to be a lot more selective about the office that they're going to go work for. And so creating that positive staff experience is very important to your bottom line. Digital solutions help to eliminate some of those mundane staff work, including data entry or reminder calls or paperwork that really make a staff person not really very excited and not feel that fulfilled when they're in your office. And a lot of times what we found is that what staff really wants to do is connect with your patients. Now, if we can get all that mundane rote work out of the way so that when a patient walks in your door, they have a happy, smiling person that's there to greet them and really feel like they're connecting, they're going to have a really positive experience, and your staff is going to have a more positive and more fulfilling experience too. You want to go to the next slide, Ryan? So here's some of the ways that digital technology improves the staff experience. Collect and present information all in one place. Patient engagement solutions are not new. Obviously, we're representing Weave, but being able to access that information really quickly and easily with digital phones that allows when a patient calls in, your staff can automatically see that information. They don't have to go hunting around your practice management solution in order to find the information. Automating time-consuming tasks. We did a study just recently where we asked how much time people spend on insurance verification per week. 6 hours. That's a time-consuming task where people are waiting on the phone or trying to search websites. If we can automate some of those time-consuming tasks, then it makes a better staff experience and allows them to connect. Simplifying scheduling. So how many times, I know for me, I need to schedule appointments for all my kids, and it's really hard to do during work days. So if I have the ability to schedule an appointment after hours or get a text message rather than trying to pick up a phone, it makes a huge difference in the way that I relate with my office or any of my dental offices, any of my care or any of my care providers. And it allows you to better connect team members and patients. Go ahead. We're going to talk about two very important things in terms of paperwork. And when we talk about paperwork, we're talking about, number one, the patient to the office paperwork. Everybody has to do that. And then the office to lab paperwork. And we're going to kind of split it in two ways. I'm going to talk about the patient in office, and then we're going to talk, Dandy's going to talk later about the office to lab. So go ahead in the next slide there. This is an incredible number to me. 61% of claim denials come from mistakes made while inputting data from paper forms. That's not your patient inputting the wrong date of birth for themselves, so their wrong social security number. That's what happens when a patient comes into your office, fills out a form, and then somebody in your staff is data entering this information. That information doesn't get translated into the next phase, and that means claim denials. The other problem is, honestly, not everybody's handwriting is really legible. So this might not be a staff problem. It might be a patient problem that just can't seem to write their threes. I love this meme. I love The Simpsons. I think they're really good social commentary. But if we can reduce some of that paperwork and mistakes, then we're going to be a lot more successful in getting those claims paid and getting better information for our patients. Go ahead and next slide.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the handwriting is not limited to just claims work as well. It's also definitely limited to what I've seen so far for paper prescriptions towards the lab. And so fundamentally, digital lab submissions and digital lab works and digital lab work order forms they're fundamentally easier to work with, both from a practitioner side, right? You get drop downs, get clear text, and it can actually be very concise and specific about what you want. And then also on the lab side, be honest about it. We don't have to sit there and interpret someone's handwriting or give a call and figure out, it was like, hey, so is that an A or a B shade? Wasn't quite clear there. There's just no room for error, no room for misinterpretation. If we go to the next slide here, the additional benefit of digital lab work is that we can actually go through and codify your preference as well, right? So be honest, like different practitioners have different preferences for occlusal contact tightness, occlusal staining. What do you do if there's not enough clearance? And we found that in analog workflows, it's very much the technician has to remember your preferences, and either it's written down on a sticky note somewhere on his bench, or he has to remember it himself. Whereas with digital, you can actually go and codify that. So when we're going in and designing a case in a digital workflow, we can actually go through and see, hey, this is actually Oh, excuse me. This is actually a doctor that really wants his contacts to be very light and just wants a nice drop-in fit. Another practitioner wants it to contour their restorations and do that final adjustment themselves chairside. Those are the kinds of preferences that you can actually capture and be much more consistent about as a lab, which in turn means much more consistent time-saving restorations for you as a practitioner. However, the penultimate point here with digital is about actually being able to capture more information. So it's not just limited to your physical impression. When you go do digital order submissions, it means that you can also provide CBCTs, radio, and other forms of radiographs. And on top of that, pictures. Makes a lab technician's life so much easier when you're working through in a process. And like, look, it's possible to go through that with an analog workflow, but it is so much easier to do it with digital. And ultimately, this does mean better looking restorations and better fitting restorations, which Nick can talk to a lot about how that helps improve the patient experience.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think we spent about 18% of our time on that. Now we're going to spend 25% of our time on improving the patient experience. I love 25% of you thought that this was a really important thing. Go ahead and to the next slide. This is me preaching to the choir. You guys know this already, right? Patients have a choice. Patients are doing their homework. There's a rise in consumerism associated with patients now. And even after reopening, after COVID, patient volume has been down 20%. And whether they're still uncomfortable going to the office because of COVID or other illnesses, or maybe they picked up and moved, there was a lot of migration away. It's super important for you to get as many patients as possible in your office. You're going to lose patients. It's just inevitable. So you need to make sure that they're having a really good patient experience. And digital solutions actually improve the perception of patients that patients have of your office. They kind of assume, rightly, that better technology equals better care. If they're experiencing this digital revolution, then they're going to assume that you're going to have a really great quality of care as well. And it also allows, we talked about this before, but it allows digital technology allows staff to create an exceptional patient experience while they're there. Go ahead to the next slide, Ryan. People don't always know how great a clinician you are, but they remember their experience. I'm just going to tell a personal experience real quick. We had, for my kids, we had a pediatric dentist that we really liked. And then he retired. The guy who took over his office, we gave him 2 tries. So we went in like 6 months, I think it was a whole year before we decided, no, this is not the person that we want. So the first thing that we did is we went out and asked all of our friends, who do you use for your dentist? And we got a bunch of recommendations for the same guy. And we changed our pediatric dentist because of the recommendations of our friends. And this is why that patient experience is so important. You need to fill your offices, you need to fill your seats, and you need to make sure that they're having a positive experience. Go ahead to the next slide, Ryan. So better patient experience equals better or more review, better ratings, more patients and referrals. Whether that's online reviews, and a lot of digital technology solutions offer you the ability to send out reviews, or if it's just making sure your patients have a really positive experience so they can make referrals to their friends and neighbors. Go ahead to the next slide. A number of ways that technology improves this patient experience. Simple communication methods. Everybody knows that everyone texts. They don't listen. I don't listen to my voicemail ever. If somebody sends me a text, then I'll read that. It's also more personalized. So they know exactly who I am. They know a lot about me. And if you're using a really good patient engagement tool, then you have the ability to read as much as you want about them when they pick up the phone to call you so that you know who they are. We provide really easy, or I guess as digital technology provides really easy and convenient payment options and results in these happier patients, which is really what you're going for. Go ahead to the next slide.
Classic mute, unmute. Yeah, so that's awesome. And also on the clinical side at Dandy, we really do fundamentally believe that intraoral scanners just provide a better patient experience. I'm sure every clinician here has had their fair share of gaggers sitting in the chair, as you just triangle. It's like, hold your thumb, wiggle your pinky, and all kinds of different tips and tricks. The scanner, not only, right, do you avoid your gaggers, and it's just a more seamless, nice intraoral experience, but there's also an incredibly powerful component with intraoral scanning. If we go to the next slide, which is about the visualization component. The scanners often are the first time that patients actually get to see their dentition in full color, blown up, and frankly, probably the closest to seeing their dentition the way you, the clinician, see the dentition. And what this ultimately means is that you can have a very, very well-informed discussion with your patient about what you are actually seeing in their mouth, and what your recommended case treatment would be. We find that humans are very simple at the end of the day. We like shiny things, we like pictures, we like being able to visualize things. And there is nothing quite like being able to scan someone, turn their scan around, and show them the buildup on the lingual of their teeth to be able to convince them, hey, you maybe need a prophy, or something more than that. If we can go to the next slide here. What digital also lets us do is it actually enables us to do these really, really unique workflows that ultimately result in less time that you need to have your patient in the chair for. So fundamentally, intraoral scanners we find are more accurate than analog impressions, which net result is a lower remake rate for your crowns, your partials, any form of restoration or treatment that you're providing to your patient. It also opens up really, really interesting and unique workflows that are exclusive to digital, like 2 to 3 appointment digital dentures. If you want to learn more about this process, we have a lot of this on our website here at Dandy. But the long story short is that if you want to actually be able to successfully do dentures at your clinic, it's all of a sudden much more viable to do it digitally. Instead of 6-7 visits, we see that most of our clinicians are able to do their dentures in 2 or maximum 3 visits instead.
Hey, Ken, as a case study of one patient, I hate that gooey stuff that they stick in my mouth. Like that stuff is terrible. And as a patient experience, like I don't want that patient experience, quite frankly. That's not something that I want. And so
100%.
I mean, that alone
I am also one of those patients, funny enough. I can scan myself, no problem. I cannot do PVS. I just truly gag. I've tried every trick in the book. Scanning is just a world of a difference for me too.
All right. Well, we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about increasing productivity and revenue with digital technology. And Ken, I think we're going to have you start out with this. And
yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so I talked a lot about how it makes for a better patient experience. It's a lot of visualization tools. Intraoral scanner companies, when they made their scanners, they knew this as well. And there's actually a lot of phenomenal tools that intraoral scanners come with to actually help you both visualize and analyze cases, but then use that to help prescribe treatment and improve case acceptance. What we find that most clinicians, especially digital clinicians, have a lot of success with is actually getting the intraoral scan as part of regular record collection. So take your radiograph, do your cleaning, and then take a scan. What that enables you to do is really easily prescribe, or at least visualize in the cases where prescription of an occlusal splint or orthodontics is necessary. It makes it so much easier to have this conversation with your patient. We can go to the next slide. For example, if you are actually doing these regular cadence intraoral scans, you're actually able to do, with basically every major intraoral scanner on the market, progression over time. So you can actually have a conversation with your patient that's coming in maybe for their annual cleaning. You can show them and say like, hey, look, not only have I told you about your bruxism, and sure, maybe you're complaining about some sore jaw or something else, but I can actually visualize for you how your dentition is evolving over time, how your teeth are shifting, how your teeth are grinding down. Because it's one thing to communicate that to the patient, as a clinician. And can you go to the next slide? It's another thing to be able to show in a color map, hey, this is where your teeth were last year. You see those red spots right there? Do you see those blue spots right there? That's where you're grinding down right now. And you can actually show, instead of tell them, that there's an actual story to their oral history. And it is such a different. I've witnessed this so many times, just chairside with practitioners using this tool for the first time. The patient starts asking you for treatment. It's not a question anymore about like, hey, I really think you should get a splint here. It's clear signs of bruxism. Now the patient's coming to you and say, hey, doc, very clearly, I don't want that. What can we do to fix that? If we go to the next slide, that same thought process, I think, has been really, really hammered out and fleshed out, obviously by iTero, but also by other intraoral scanners for orthodontic applications as well. Atero has some number out there, and this is corroborated by a bunch of other clear aligner companies. There is effectively anywhere from a 40 to 60%, 40 to 60 increase in case acceptance rate when you just use a basic orthodontic visualization tool. Again, people are visual. If they see their teeth go from here to all of a sudden their diastemas are closed, they don't have an overjet anymore. Now you got them into a different mental model. Instead of, oh, maybe my doctor recommended this, to, oh, wow, I actually need this. And that's a fundamentally easier way to have a conversation with your patient.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. I totally agree. Hey, and I'm just going to kind of close it out with some of the interesting numbers that we've found in terms of just costs. When we're talking about productivity, we want you to work the same hours or less hours with less expense, more patient, more procedures, better care, overall, more money. If you can work 4 hours and make the same amount of money as you're making 5 hours, let's do that. And maybe it's not about just going from no boat to a bigger boat or something like that. Maybe it's about just making sure you get home. For me, this is really important. I've got a lot of kids. I like to be home. I like to spend time with them. And if we can make you more productive, then you can spend more time on those things that are most important. But I really love this number. According to this ADA study, an average dental office spends $14,000 on just office supplies. That includes pens and pencils, paper, toner, clippers, or clipboards, staples, paper clips, sticky notes. I don't know what your cost is in your office, but man, if it's anywhere close to 14,000, you got to change that, and you got to change that now. So these digital solutions and some of the things that Ken's already talked about with the intraoral scanners, they speed up your time to delivery, and that's an incredible patient experience. They also reduce your costs. If we're able to save even a portion of that $14,000 a year on office supplies, then that's amazing. Think about the amount of staff that you have. I'm not saying fire your staff. I'm saying, let's make them more efficient. Let's make them really be successful. And I love how digital solutions ensure your practice runs on time. If your patients know that they need to be there at a certain time, they keep getting automated reminders, then they'll be there. If they fill out their paperwork digitally before they show up, then your office isn't running behind. You can fit in a whole extra appointment, which makes you more productive in the same amount of hours, and it keeps your seats full. One of the biggest problems, and you guys, again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the last thing you want is to have an empty operatory when you have the option of having people there. Go into the next slide. So some of these productivity, 9 additional customers per week. This is something that a study that we did at Weave, where we found that people who use Weave effectively have 9 additional customers per week. That's a lot of increased productivity. Again, no more hours. That they're not working more hours, but they are getting more done. 2 hours and 50 minutes per day is how much time your staff is spending on the phone. We can eliminate that just by utilizing two-way text messaging. The SMS texting, that's how people are communicating anyway. So let's do it. 38 new Google reviews. Now, if you don't have friends and family that recommend a pediatric dentist like I do, then the next thing you're going to do is go to the Google reviews, and you might do both. And so digital technology allows you to get those Google reviews. And then I love this, increased revenue by $3,708 on average. That pays for all of these solutions. They just pay for themselves. So it's really, really good. So we're going to do a quick overview of Dandy and Weave real quick. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So if you guys have any interest in going digital and want to try out a digital lab experience, we think Dandy is the right solution for you. We are a nationwide full service digital dental lab. We do full service removables and fixed restorations, surgical, clear aligners, you name it, we do it. And what makes us special and different is that we will give you an intraoral scanner absolutely free. We include the 3-Shape Trios with a laptop and a cart and unlimited training. So if you have staff that cycle in and out and you just need people to be sharp on their intraoral scanning skills, Dandy's the partner for you. And Dandy, from a digital lab ordering process, every single case gets scanned with an intraoral scanner. You then go through our order submission process. Again, this is all online. You can also keep track of your orders on your mobile devices or frankly anywhere in the world. We will go through and design it, fabricate it with our partner labs or in-house, and then we will ship that back to you. We have an industry-leading turnaround time for your zirconia crowns. If you scan someone on Monday, you will have that zirconia monolithic crown back in your practice on Friday.
All right. Thanks, Ken. That's incredible, by the way. That's a super quick turnaround. And then we here at Weave, we have a complete business toolbox. One of the things that I like to highlight is one of the biggest ways that we're different from other patient engagement solutions is that we actually offer phones. So VoIP phones that integrate directly with all of the rest of your communication devices that really makes that experience seamless, and it makes it so you don't have to do context switching between all the different solutions. The standard other patient engagement solutions, including reminders, phones, texting, missed call text, is another unique value proposition that we have that others don't have. We provide analytics that help you see what you are, what you're missing or what you're doing effectively. We definitely invite you to check out Weave and what we offer from a patient engagement solution.
Yeah, I wanted to thank both Nate and Ken. We were able to get efficiently. We did a dry run of this, and we were well into the 45-minute range. And so I'm glad that we're able to condense it and keep it concise for all of our listeners here so that they can get the information and get the main points in a nice, concise way. If you're interested in about learning more about Weave or Dandy, here's some information that we have for you. You can go, if for Weave, we have a special promotion just for, getting on, trying and watching it on a one-on-one demo. You're going to get, coffees on us, a $50 gift card. And I know Ken has some great promotions by getting a similar demo with Dandy. You can do that at trydandy.com/weave. Ken, tell us a little bit more about the free $30,000 intraoral scanner.
Yeah, as a part of our standard package, it includes a Trios 3 shape, Trios 3 from 3 shape, English, a cart so that you can move your scanner around between operatories, a laptop, basically a very powerful laptop that actually runs this intraoral scanner, and again, unlimited training. We are in the business, I'll be very candid about it, we are not in the business of distributing and selling hardware. We are not in the business of selling services. We are in the business of being a lab. And so for Dandy, we have very much a direct incentive to make sure that you are having as smooth as possible of an experience with your intraoral scanner. So everything from staff training to additional questions to assistance. Maybe you want to go digital for the first time with implant restorations, clear aligners. We're here for you. We're always ready to help.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again for your expertise on the topic. Very fascinating. And ultimately, our listeners are looking for ways to increase their productivity and revenue, as well as, even though there are lower numbers, everyone wants to increase their team and staff experience. And we know that as technology improves, they're going to find better ways to do that, whether it be through improving their productivity in office by having more efficient communication, by having practice management systems that better integrate with some of their systems which they try to apply, or if it comes to what they do in their actual treatment plans, whether it be the technology and products that they use when giving to patients, or the interaction between the lab and the office. And ultimately, our goal as technology companies is to provide a better solution for dentists so that they can save more time, be more efficient in their practice, and ultimately try to bring in more revenue each and every time. So we're going to go ahead and go to our Q&A. We had some questions come in through the chat. We'll recognize some of those today. First of all, let's see. So one question was asked, does Weave integrate the images from the Dandy scanner? So I'll push that one to Nate.
I'm sorry. I was just reading the question here. Can we connect our office to software? Will we be able to do that with Dandy so that Dandy plus Dentrix? Sorry, is that the question that you're asking?
It looks like Chris was asking if images taken from the Dandy scanner, are those integrated through Weave? And from my understanding, most of the images that are integrated with Weave and your practice management systems are patient related as far as imaging, and then the rest of the images are housed within the practice management software. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the answer that I would give, sorry, thank you for clarifying. So the answer that I would give is the integration that happens between Dandy and the practice management software. So Dandy would actually push that information to the practice management software, not necessarily through Weave as the patient engagement solution. So I would say it goes direct. Ken, is that accurate?
A little bit. So I will say a direct integration with practice management softwares is currently in progress. Unfortunately, I cannot share too much more details, but rest assured, I mean, look, Dentrix is the largest practice management software platform in the United States. We're working on it.
And I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Dandy. It looks like one practitioner commented that they have patients who take pictures of their Dandy scans because it's so exciting for them to see their mouth.
Love it.
Nate, there's another question here. I think you teased something that we haven't really officially announced, but one question was, does Weave integrate, or sorry, how does Weave check insurance? And can you give us a breakdown on
that? Yeah, man, I totally let the cat out of the bag there. So we are introducing, we're already embedded with an insurance verification solution. We are introducing that within hopefully the next couple of weeks. Which is going to be a complete insurance verification solution that could potentially replace the one that you have, or if you don't have one, then we definitely invite you to take a look at it. We are working with a partner to get that in place, and we'll let everyone know sooner rather than later about what's happening with that.
Wonderful.
Looks like another question that came. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there's another question that came through the Q&A section from Chris as well. Does Weave replace Dentrix?
Yeah, so the answer is no. So we do patient engagement. We don't do a system of record for patients. We don't have a ledger. We don't have the entire tooth chart that Dentrix has. So it doesn't replace Dentrix. It may replace portions of Dentrix e-services. If you're interested in kind of replacing some of those solutions, then give us a call and we can talk about it. There's still going to be a system of record that's going to be your practice management software, whether it's Dentrix or EagleSoft or Open Dental or whoever it might be.
One of the questions we had here was, can you tell us more about how people are saving time with text messaging versus on the phone? Are most people on the phone all day?
Yeah, and if you go back to that slide, there was a couple of slides ago. We actually no, let me find it. It's slide 28. So up in the upper right-hand corner, Weave's text feature alone saves offices an average of 2 hours and 50 minutes per day. What we're talking about is phone calls, because kind of the older school of thought has been pick up the phone, make a phone call, make sure that the patients are coming. With Weave, you actually can set up a cadence of reminders, whether it's 2 weeks and then 3 days, and then the day of, to remind them to come into the office so that your staff isn't picking up the phone and making those phone calls. And that's where we're replacing 2 hours and 50 minutes per day of your staff time with automated text messaging or automated text reminders.
Perfect. There's another question. I think this one was kind of geared towards everyone, so I'll make it available to see. But they said, our office is having trouble reaching patients by phone. It seems like all we get are unanswered or people not answering. Is this a trend everyone else is seeing? And I can talk a little bit about that. I know that in 2019, 2020, and 2021, they did a poll, or the national records of phones we're figuring out how many phone calls are being made by robocalls. And they estimate about 52% of all phone calls in each of those years were made by robophone calls, which has really influenced the behavior of how people are answering their phone. Essentially, if they see a phone number they're not recognizing, they're not answering. And it's something we've seen across, in Weave and one of the big calling points. But if you're seeing that in your practice as well as your office managers are trying to reach out to patients and your patient coordinators are just trying to get people confirmed, that is a national trend that is not exclusive to that office. Nate, do you have anything else to say on that?
No, absolutely. I mean, I would just double down on it. I mean, nobody's answering their phone anymore. And even people aren't really even, if your phone system allows you to read the voicemail, people don't even read those. I mean, that's the whole reason why we send text messages these days. We do it on a personal level. Businesses are doing it. Your offices need to be doing it as well.
All right, well, we are over time, but we're very excited that we were able to talk about a very important topic of improving productivity, the staff experience, and overall your team and revenue. with technology and technology solutions. Thank you very much, Dandy and Ken Butler, for joining us today, as well as Nate Nelson. Thank you for pausing your paternity leave to chat with us very briefly, and hope that Duncan is doing well.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Bye, all.
Have a good one.
Goodbye.